Hey everyone, I'm Chris, and figured that with so many people asking so many questions on posts on the Firefly Facebook group, thought I'd give a little bit of education and understanding into MJG firewire initiators and the Firefly firing system. Excuse my mess. Going to go down through 5 points. Please excuse me if I tend to be a little bit long-winded. I definitely want people to understand thoroughly, and I think that lessens the amount of questions that have to be asked after explanation. So first things first, I'm going to go over a brief history and understanding of 1.4 and 1.3G. 1.4 is classified as consumer fireworks. If you're actually watching this video and learning something from it, chances are you're just a consumer. That doesn't mean you're a bad person, don't get me wrong. That just means that you don't have the education and information to legally handle and fire off 1.3 or professional grade fireworks. Both different classifications are under the general of explosive, which means that there's a deflagration and a detonation. Deflagration actually explains in layman's terms that it's a blast slower than the speed of sound. Detonation means it's obviously the opposite, which is a blast faster than the speed of sound. Now, the beauty about 1.4G or consumer fireworks is that it's state mandated. In other words, whatever state you're in, well, it determines on what they want to allow you to have. They may say, we don't want you to have any type of firework, depending on the state. They may say, well, we'll allow you some. Other states are, well, you know what, whatever is legally on sale out there or for sale, by all means, go ahead, have at it, enjoy yourself. Now, when it comes to the professional, they may not generally be a complete detonation. I mean, we're not talking dynamite here. Dynamite is definitely in the detonation category. But the difference is less flash, in other words, flash powder, in 1.4G. It's a composition, it's extremely volatile, and more flash powder in 1.3, and actually I noted on this, up to 5 times more flash powder is what creates the boom, and yes, you guessed it, salutes. Now, 1.4G is considered unregulated. In other words, they've made laws and rules on exactly what a general consumer, fireworks consumer, can have, and as long as it's at that level or below, well, the states can decide whatever they want. As for 1.3, it's heavily regulated, and it's heavily regulated by the federal government, most notoriously the ATF. Well, what does that mean? That means that to be able to fire off 1.3, and I noted up here 1.4 Pro, you must have license or licenses, and again, I'm going to read it for verbatim, to purchase, store, transport, and set up light off with proper insurance and permits. Now, some people might say and grumble, well, 1.4 doesn't count for that. Well, that's kind of a gray area. It seems that 1.4 Pro, it was set up in the past to account for what they called quick ports. Quick ports could only be used if you actually had EMatch. EMatch is under regulation, and therefore only 1.3 professional firing pyrotechnicians can actually use EMatch. Legally, as a consumer, you can't, which is pretty cool because we're getting into MJG firewires, which is technically the same thing as an EMatch, but I'll tap on that a little bit later. How do you tell the difference between a 1.4 and a 1.3? The difference in the labeling. 1.4 will say warning. 1.3 will just outright say danger. If there are, and I'm sure you've probably seen videos, if you haven't, go ahead and check them out. Consumer fireworks stores, you'll normally see when they show videos of them burning up, you'll see fireworks going off as the flames are going up. With 1.3 professional, it's an explosion. That goes to show you how much more of flash, and hence the reason why it's so dangerous for people without proper training and education and testing, could become dangerous to themselves. So let's get out of that. And I'm going to get us into the Firefly module information. So please bear with me here for a second. I actually have to set up my stand. Try to get it. Gotta love camera stands, right? Okay, set this bad boy down and push this one back so see what's going on. Okay, talking about the Firefly here, right? Let's see if we can get that set up that way. Now, number one, I want you all to know that I am not affiliated. I haven't been hired. I don't work for Firefly. I'm just a customer, just like the rest of you. A little bit of history about me, though. I do have multiple firing systems. They vary in degree. Firing systems are not created equal. There's firing systems for beginners, intermediates, and then, of course, for your extreme advanced. And they definitely correlate, too, as well, to their prices. A beginner firing system usually is pretty reasonable. Now, I'll get to in a second here why I like the Firefly system, and why, if you're watching this video and you do own one or are in the process of purchasing one. Wow, I can't talk today. My tongue is tied. It's definitely one of the best out there for its category. If you're watching this video, chances are you're either bored and just want to waste time because somebody posted a new video, or you really do have a lot of questions regarding the firing system and what this whole deal about EMatch and MJG firewires and all that goofy stuff is, and why people are talking about these connectors and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so as I was saying, beginner to advanced, the creator, Kevin Wu of Titan Firefly, originally wanted this to be a beginner's entry into firing systems, right? So gone your days of having to actually light fireworks by hand. But the cool thing about this unit, though, is that it kind of mirrors intermediate to advanced fireworks systems. Now, obviously, you're not going to go out and spend $200 to $300 on a firing system by Firefly and think that you're going to spend $200 to $300 on an advanced system. They're going to be about $6,000, maybe more, $1,000 a piece, and that's just for the module, not including the remote and all the other wonderful things that they have to add to it, like software programs and scripting, so on and so forth. But the creator made the Firefly so that it's super user-friendly, and I've noticed that there's quite a broad spectrum of knowledgeable individuals working with the Firefly system. There's a chance that I'm speaking to somebody right now that is literally not even fired this unit yet, and they're just asking questions because, well, it's kind of the off season or whatever it may be, and I just want to learn more about it. I put this money into it, and I want to really have a cool backyard fireworks show. That's what this system was intended for. But what makes this system so cool is that a lot of the beginner systems are very simple, basic. You have to buy a ton of batteries. I mean, a ton of batteries, AA's and so on and so forth. I mean, you're going to have to invest in stock and Duracell to be able to justify the use of some of these systems. And they're very, very simple and straightforward. You take your initiator wire and you plug it inside of it, of the module, and then you got this little remote with a button, a simple button, and you press the button and it fires it off. A cool thing with the Firefly, though, is that now you can actually start scripting and doing pyro musicals, and all by the use of your phone. You don't have to have a remote. You don't have to put a ton of batteries in. As a matter of fact, my unit right here is the Wi-Fi version. If you do actually have a Bluetooth, I highly suggest that you have it upgraded to the Wi-Fi version. You send it out, and Titan will actually upgrade it so that it's Wi-Fi compatible or capable. And I always get my I don't utilize the D batteries. I utilize this power plate. Makes the world so much easier, especially when you don't have to throw batteries away. It's actually not as heavy with this power plate as compared to having all those D cell batteries and stuff. And you know, this little port pops open and you can actually charge this bad boy, and it holds a charge for quite a long time. Now, that's for the beginner. I have seen and have used this firing system for professional grade fireworks. It is capable of actually firing off professional grade fireworks. So that's why I say when I tell you that there's quite a broad spectrum. And don't be afraid to ask questions on our group. There's questions I've asked many times myself and not understanding, or just seeing how in a short time this firing system has expanded, the new upgrades, new updates, so on and so forth. It's pretty cool. So we're going to talk about ways to fire the module next. Normally, right, we know them as the original Firefly clip. Everybody's seen these, right? It's a simple little clip. Let me get the wire out of the way, right? You've got your little coil in there, and what do? You take your fuse, right, and you pop that in here and you clip it closed. And man, if you set off bank one, and this is hooked to bank one, it's gonna set off that fuse, right? Pretty simple. And then of course quickly they came up with these really cool advancements on the clip itself. Now all of a sudden it's not just you have to put a fuse inside of a clip. They came up with this really cool updated item, the Titan clip, right? And you can tell the difference. And again, I mean, a lot of people would call this the Firefly clip, the regular clip, the original clip, the clip, yeah, whatever, float your boat, right? But this one is actually labeled the Titan clip. And if you happen to have it backwards, well, it'll also tell you there, Titan multi-clip. The neat thing with the Titan multi-clip is it goes a lot further than the capability of this original clip. And I'm going to try to grab something to show you. Right down here is a little diagram of the clip on the inside of this clip, right? It's showing this whole area, right, on the back here. And you could still do the same thing you did with the original Firefly, which is take and put your fuse right in the center, right over the coil like that. Or you can use what they call an electronic firing initiator by setting the wires on each side. And if we look real close, let's see if I get this in the light just right. You see these outsides? Right here and here? That's where an electronic initiator would go. Fuse, electronic initiators. Now, why would we want to go away from just hooking it up to a fuse? Well, there's a lot of reasons. One being that when we use an initiator rather than just using the regular clip to fuse, the initiator opens up a lot more possibilities. First off, the initiator could be automatically included into an item, and I'll get over that information here in a little bit. It allows a lot more fast presentation of the firework. Think about it. You got a firework and it's got this fuse on it, and you've got it playing to a song, let's say, and at this particular spot in the song, you want this item that's hooked to this fuse to be up in the air and going off. Well, now you've got to figure how long it's going to take to go from this fuse burning all the way down in before it sets off the lift charge of the firework, and then the distance it takes to get up in the air before it goes off. So now you got all these numbers. You got to figure that out. These guys cut a lot of that shenanigans right out. Now, excuse me. Before I get into showing how to actually set up an MJG initiator, we're actually going to go into the information on the MJG initiator. And you're going, well, what does MJG stand for? I don't know. Michael, John, Jim, whoever knows, but it's MJG Technologies. That's the name of the company. And the reason why these guys are so awesome is for the simple fact that, again, before these initiators were out, you couldn't legally get any type of initiator, EMatch, you name it. And the reason why is because they're a lot more volatile. And I will actually show you a sheet of paper where you can actually look up on YouTube, as well as check out some other another site on terminology uses and stuff for fireworks. But in one particular they did what they called, or one particular video, they did what they called the matchbook test, where the guy actually had this MJG initiator, and then they had EMatch, then they had the Chinese, the supposed safe Chinese EMatch, and he actually took this match head at the end here, and actually ran it along like a regular matchbook. And it was pretty amazing as to what went off and what didn't go off. So that's an eye-opener. And the reason why these guys are so awesome, and getting back to what I was originally saying, is that EMatch, you couldn't legally get it. You had to... I'm not even going to get into this information, other than the fact that by rights, if you did not have a professional license, you legally cannot and are not supposed to have EMatch. So MJG came along and said, well, we got to do something. I mean, there's this whole vast array of consumer firework enthusiasts out there. What if we found some way to make an EMatch so that it was legal for them to have? And that's exactly what this became. This is it. This is well, one of two. This particular one is classified as an MJG initiator Visco. In other words, it's got a clear tube here, and if you take a fuse, you could actually just pop this guy into the tube, and boom, you're ready to light with Visco. They also have another style, which same match head, only the difference is this covering. It's about the same, like maybe a little bit shorter, but it's red, and it actually can slide back, and a lot of people like to use those to actually poke fireworks. Now, before I get into all of that, I just want to go over some tools and safety. Number one, when it comes to fireworks and manipulating fireworks, prepping fuses and putting on initiators, static is our biggest enemy. Let me say that again. Static is our biggest enemy. So what does that mean? That means that anytime we're cutting a piece of fuse, and if we're using a pair of scissors to cut them, your regular office scissors are metal, and they're going to create static. It may not happen this time. You might be able to cut 50,000 pieces of fuse, but at some point, the law of averages is going to bite you. Whether this is attached to a firework and you cut it, and it takes off into the firework, well, we all know how dangerous that becomes. Static is extremely dangerous. And I say these things because I'm a 28-year retired veteran of the fire service, as well as I used to actually be a fire marshal. I have seen the devastation. There's a lot of different safety aspects. I can't go through all of them. I can go through just some of them with you right now. Number one, as you see, I'm sitting outside. I'm not telling you have to do this. I mean, to each is their own. This is consumer fireworks. It's unregulated, which means that they're really, other than what it says on your particular firework item or your box of fireworks, do not hold in hand, and you're supposed to follow whatever they say, but it's pretty general. This information that I'm explaining to you now is actually produced and given to 1.3 technicians, whereas you're just kind of left in the dark. So anyways, static, one of our most dangerous items, and therefore if you're going to be doing things like I'm going to explain a little bit about poking and so on and so forth, it's really good and smart to actually be outside. Not being inside, not having all of your fireworks spread around, all around you. If something goes wrong, not only will you run the aspect of getting hurt, but it's going to get pretty untenable very quickly once everything else starts to take off. One firework goes off, everything's going to go off. Kind of think of it as like the worst case scenario, right? So anyways, we have our fuse, and some of the tools that I like to use, and I'm not telling you what to buy, but myself, I like these Ronin brand multi-cut cutters. It's really like it's a razor blade in here, but it doesn't shear like scissors. It comes down to this plastic, so that removes that chance for static electricity. Another thing is to actually use a regular razor blade, and you take and you put the fuse on a piece of wood, right, and you just take the razor blade and cut it, right? Why am I saying why should you cut the fuse? Well, when it comes to fuse, and I've got a little piece of pink fuse here, if you look at, if I can get it to show you, look at the two fuses here, you see how much product shows. That black stuff on the inside is actually your powder that's supposed to burn, that burns along that fuse. If you take and you actually cut, let me get a better look here. You cut it at an angle, and I'm going to do it just like this. In other words, don't cut it perpendicular, cut it at an angle. look at how much more is exposed. And that makes it a lot easier. A lot of times I see people that are just happy with just running the clips without all of these initiators and stuff, saying, oh wow, it didn't go off. Well, if you've got it just like this at the end, it's kind of hard. And there's a jacket here, and it takes a little bit of time for the heated coil inside here to actually burn through this jacket and get to that. And sometimes that may not happen. So if you've got it set up so that it's cut at an angle like that, and you face the angle to that coil, you run an extremely good chance that that bad boy is going to fire for you. Okay. So, non-sparking, right? So there's that guy. When you're dealing with initiators, chances are you probably want to be able to poke. I got two different kinds of pokes here. This guy I actually got off Amazon. It was about 22 bucks. It's what I call the screwdriver poke. And then there's the T-handle poke. And the cool thing is, I believe his name is John Anderson. He's actually on our group page quite often. He started creating this poke for himself, and then it just took off. People wanted to buy him from him. And he's about the same price, about $22. It's really nice wood. It's got a pretty cool design there. And I noticed that there is quite a difference here. John definitely has a much better understanding of poking fireworks. You can see how fat and very quickly it comes to a point as compared to this screwdriver poke. Now this screwdriver poke, again, was just classified as a firework awl on Amazon. But you see how elongated that is? And the trouble with that, though, is, okay, you're trying to poke into a tube. You got a tube, or I don't know how to... All right, let's say this is the tube, and you're trying to poke inside the tube. Very quickly, you can inadvertently poke past it like that. See that? And that's not cool, because that's not going to go off right. That's never going to be a good thing. Whereas this brass poke, you know, you're going to get the thickness of this that will account for the thickness of this right here, without going all the way. You'd have to go pretty far in and then through, where it's a lot easier to do it with this. Another thing, brass. Brass is non-sparking. And therefore, when we talk about non-sparking, of course, we don't want sparks around things that can go up and go boom, right? It also, very difficult to impossible to actually get this to become static charged. Great thing, right? And by the way, the reason why I say that is not every awl is actually brass like this. There's a lot of leather awls. There's silver, regular silver awls for them. And one of the incidents I had was a guy actually burned his house down by using a regular leather awl. Burned his eyes, burned his face, doing it inside of his basement with all his fireworks around him. So I do have a reason and a purpose for why I'm telling you these things. So, number one, no desktop scissors. Unless somehow there's some special brass scissors, okay, go for that. But regular scissors, no. Static is not our friend. It's our enemy. Number two, make sure that your awls are always brass, right? And number three, try to do it in a safe area. You know, if you've got a backyard or you got a garage or something, you know, out in front of the garage, just for the potential aspect that something were to take off, the firework in your hand goes off, it's not going to burn your house down. You know, it'll just go off outside. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you recommendations through the experience that I have seen from my life. So we're going to get into the last thing now, which is MJG initiator. In this case, for mine, it's the Firewire Visco initiator, right? And first thing you got to do is when we're doing initiators, we want to hook it to our firing system. Big no-no, big no-no. Do not hook your initiator up and into a port before turning this on. Let me say that again. Do not hook this up before turning on your Firefly system. Well, why would you do that? That's what you probably ask, right? Well, what's the big deal about that? Because when you turn your Firefly unit on, it's going to do a self-check run. And what it's doing is it's actually sending a little electronic blip. That little electronic blip is enough to set this guy off. So try to think of it this way. You've got 15 ports on one Firefly unit, right? And let's say you hook it up to all your fireworks, right? And it's, I don't know, before night. And you decide, oh, I want to run a test, and you turn this on. Now all of a sudden you've got 15 fireworks going off when you were not expecting to have it happen. So unless you want real excitement that you weren't expecting, I highly recommend do not plug in your Firewire first before turning on your Firefly. Okay, so a couple of different ways that you can actually set up your initiator, right? And now again, they do have talons, and talons are set up much the same way as this. It's just it's got 2 wires, and then it's got an initiator head. The difference is that your Firewire initiator by MJG is just like it shows. It's just a match head. So electrical current gets sent down the wire to this enough to set this match head off, and therefore it sets off, you know, your fuse that you've got plugged into there, or if this is directly installed into the firework, sets off the firework. Okay, first thing you do before we actually start poking our fireworks, if that's what you were getting into, number one, you expose your 2 wires and you cross them and twist them a little bit, making sure that they're not going to separate. Why would you do that, Chris? Well, because that's removing the possibility of static current actually happening between these 2 wires. Okay, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't even know that. Believe me, it can happen. You cross these wires, then you plug this into your fuse or your firework. Once you're plugged in, yes, you can uncross the wire to actually set it up into your clip. Now, here's the Titan clip. To do it straight with the Titan clip, right? You got your wire here hooked to your Titan clip, right? And it's going all the way back to here to your box or your fire module, right? And all you got to do is just pop this open, and let me get these wires here. You got these 2 wires, and what I like to do is these wires are usually really, really long. If you look real closely, if I were to try to put them there, you see how it goes all the way past this little box area in here. So what I do is I always bend them down, bend this guy here like this. And you know what? This actually also puts more surface area, because these plates are where those electrical wires need to go. And we'll do it with this guy here. So now we've got 2, and one guy goes over in this side, and the other one goes way over here. And it's a little tricky. I'm trying to do this with a camera in front of me, so we'll see how well I'll manage. Oh my gosh, I actually managed to do it the first time. But there you go. Once this clip is hooked into the firing system, after the firing system's been turned on, and I press fire in port 1, if this is hooked into port 1, it's going to set the EMatch off. Pretty cool, right? Now, there's also another option, and I see a lot of people asking this question. So I'm going to bring it up. Now, first off, I want to say that, you know, when it comes to this group, it's a pretty amazing group here. There's a lot of very informative individuals, a lot of good experience. Off the top of my head, I can think of Jamie Maunder. I think that guy's an electrical engineer or something. He's pretty amazing with what he comes up with to manipulate the firing system, and he's not afraid to post and show. There's Ethan Upton. Ethan Upton has put on a lot of educational videos. If you were to go to the top of the Firefly Facebook page, there's a little icon there that says education. You tap into that, and you can actually go down through educational videos on the firing system, different aspects like talons, you know, initiators, understanding how to upgrade or how to sync multiple units. You know, the number goes on and on and on. But Ethan actually has posted quite a few videos for this, and they're really great and informative. Al Bull, I've seen a lot on the group. He's a guy that outside of the United States that has come up with running initiators and sequencing, and one of the guys that came up with this really cool concept of these connectors and stuff that I even use myself. Bobby Hyde not only sells fireworks as well as the firing systems, but he's always promoting and producing videos and information about how to get the best use out of the Firefly firing system. And you know, the list goes on and on and on. I've seen the owner of Pyro Boom, who's also been on our site, that gives out lots of information. And then, of course, the creator, Kevin Wu himself. Amazingly, as busy as the guy is, I'm so impressed that I actually see him answering questions that people may have as well on the group. He's also constantly upgrading and updating and coming up with better ideas. He's an individual that listens to us as consumers of this firing system, and if there's a possible way for him to expand the firing system, he's not afraid to do it, which is really cool. All right, so one of the other options is what I've created myself. And again, you don't have to do it the way I do it. I like my way. It's nothing more than a Firefly clip here, regular Firefly clip, and I just took the jack end and then measured about 6 inches and clipped it off. And then I exposed the 2 wires. If we look real close, there's a white, which is the positive, and a black, which is the negative. And these are real simple connectors that I've picked up from Amazon, and I believe the connectors for like 20 of these are about, what, $17. So they're pretty, you know, reasonable in price. But what I like to do is normally, and the reason why I like to have them short like this, again, it's personal preference. You don't have to do this. Everybody can do it their way. I just found, for me, after the fireworks show, using the Firefly, and I've got multiple modules out there, so you know, you're looking at 45, you know, or 60 cords, you know, black cords nonetheless, and it's post fireworks, and there's a mess everywhere. Cords are everywhere. I found it's just very difficult, so I've kind of gone and cheated. I've taken the cords, cut them very, very short, so that not only are they short, but they'll quickly, you know, pack right back inside of my Firefly case here. And then what I like to use for length instead is this blasting wire, which Eric Alma, again, the owner of Pyro Boom, sells this. I can't remember how much this was. I want to say it was like 30 or 40 bucks. This is like 500 feet of blasting wire. Some people call it fireworks wire. Yeah, whatever. Pretty much it's 24 gauge fireworks blasting wire. Matter of fact, I'll talk about Elbow real quick again. He likes to use pretty much, it's the same thing. It's 24 gauge wire just like this, only instead of it being, you know, attached together where you got to pull it to spread it open, his is just twisted like this, so that, you know, you can just untwist it and stuff. And probably a bit easier, because it can be a pain in the butt when you clip this wire and then you got to spread those 2 pieces apart. But anyways, I like to use the blasting wire. The blasting wire is safe to use for the firing system. Right here, I've got a mess here that you probably can't see all of, but there's about 20 feet here. And all I do is just take, same thing like I would do it with an initiator. I just took the 2 ends, curved them around, and then actually just popped each one, if I can get it in there now. And it doesn't matter. I mean, even though I said that there's a positive and negative on the Firefly wire, when it comes to hooking this up, it doesn't matter. And then just put them in there and snap them together, and boy, they're going to hold. They're going to hold really well. A lot easier than you know, to me, than hooking them inside a Titan clip. Nothing against a Titan clip. You don't have to have this. You can even use this blasting wire to extend even more length by just putting the blasting wire again in the clip like I showed you with the initiator. One side here, one side there. But so I like to get extra length, and then at the end of it, I just take my initiator here, And again, this side here, okay, is plugged into our unit, right? I would take and just separate and then twist. Good idea is to kind of bend it over to keep them together, and do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And then you don't want these to touch, right? So what I like to do is actually bend it off like that. See how they're separated now? And I like to use, you know, a little bit of tape there. I'll take the tape and I'll wrap it around this side and then come over here and wrap it around that side. And by the way, people argue about this all the time. This right here is nothing more than simple U-Haul box packaging tape. If you look close, it's product number 55T. This thing's about $4 for 55 yards. This stuff is the cat's meow. I do actually have regular, and actually this is a very good brand of Scotch masking tape. But what sets this different from anything else, number one, it's super easy to tear. Not like duct tape. I mean, I can tear this very easily, no problems. Just like, you know, your regular masking tape. The other thing, though, is that the adhesive is a lot more stronger than your normal masking tape. So that means that when, or if you're setting up fireworks a week, month, 2 months, whatever, however long before, this right here is going to hold for you. Why? Because this is packaging tape. This is meant for your boxes. They know at the U-Haul company that if you're looking for this tape, you're trying to put it on boxes to put what? Your valuable possessions in so that you can load it up and move. Well, nobody puts it all together in one day and then takes off, right? You're probably boxing stuff up months ahead, and then you're going to have to haul it, and then, you know, you got to get into it at some other point. You might move that box numerous times, and it's going to go through all kinds of different temperatures, from hot to cold, humid to non-humid, so on and so forth. This tape is built to hold together. So I prefer to use this because I have actually found that by using regular masking tape, eventually it starts to lose its ability or its adhesive, and a lot of them will actually start to slowly unroll. So now you've got your tape on something, you know, like this, and then you set it out in the field, and then you come back, and the tape's like literally what was closed around and now is opened right up. Doesn't happen a lot, but believe me, much better tape. That's my opinion. So anyways, you've got now your extension wire here to your initiator. And what happens? Okay, so again, like I said before, we're going to make sure to turn on this unit. Why are we going to turn on this unit? Because you're going to see, if you haven't noticed before, when you press this button, it's going to do a self-check, and the green light is going to flash onto every one of these ports. And here we go. There it goes. So, if you were hooked up, could set that guy off. Not cool. So we're going to make sure that the firing system is on. Moment we plug in, I know I have continuity. What that's telling me right there is that there is an electrical current continuously running through all of my system. That tells me that I am ready to fire this initiator. The moment this initiator burns off, all of this will go dark. Okay? Now, that pretty much concludes everything that I can tell you in understanding EMatch and some of the safety reasons, a little bit of history and why this MJG initiator is so awesome, especially for the consumer and stuff like that. I also want to make note as well that if you're going to be using initiators or the Chinese EMatch, you want to switch your app on your phone to EMatch. Again, this initiator is pretty much the same thing as an EMatch, only it's just created safer by MJG Technologies for the consumer. Does the exact same thing, just not as volatile. Okay, so you want to switch over to EMatch to be able to use this. The difference between regular and EMatch is when we're dealing with the Titan clip here, it needs a chance to heat these coils up. Then these coils need to heat up and actually burn through a little bit of this jacket here on the fuse before it takes off. So it's about 3 seconds that it's going to heat up. This guy, tiny little pulse, one little fast pulse, that's going to set that off. That's all you need. So make sure to switch over to your EMatch. I mean, you can still do it with this. It's just you can actually, by switching over to EMatch with the initiator, you can do literally bank 1 second to 2, 1 second to 3, 1 second to 4. If we have it in just the regular clip, you got to give it 2 seconds. So if you fire up bank 1, 1002, 1000, there's 2, 1001, 1002. So it's a little bit faster by switching over to the EMatch. If you're just using, again, if you're just using Visco into the Titan clip, don't switch to EMatch. It's a very good chance it won't like this. You can keep it without EMatch setting, or you can have it on EMatch setting with the initiator. So with all of that, I, somewhere here, actually have some good videos that you may want to look into. And I'm going to try to hold this up long enough. You can pause it, whatever you want to do. But on YouTube, there's the best fireworks blasting wire and EMatch review comparison and test. That's the actual matchbook test that they did with MJG as well as EMatch. Pretty informative. And that guy's name is Mark Uman. Pretty cool on how he manipulates some of what we call poking, the repeaters and poking canister shells and stuff like that. Another good one is Talon Clip Igniter and MJG Initiator installation. Again, that's how to utilize Talon clips. I didn't cover Talon clips at all because I just wanted to explain the Firewire Initiator. Everyone's really hot on this, and this is relatively new. Another one is Talon Clip Igniter installation and fusing fireworks. Now, again, this is, I believe, the same guy, Mark Uman, who had some really cool manipulation of repeaters. If you're new and I am actually educating somebody out there, another thing would be just doing a general internet search called APA, Glossary of Pyrotechnic Terms. Because a lot of times the issue isn't so much being able to understand, it's the terminology and learning the lingo of the language. What's a mod? What's this? What's that? So on and so forth. What does ATF stand for? Yada, yada, yada. So I hope that this was in some way informative and helpful to somebody out there. And with that being said, I wish you a goodbye, good luck, be safe, and have fun.